Hey, how is it going, people? It is Mike the NBA guy, and today, as you can see, I am going to be giving you all my top 15 players for the 2021 NBA season. These are who I believe are going to be the best players in the league next season, and I hope that you all like the format this is in. I just did this on PowerPoint because I didn't know a better way to do it. Um, I did put a decent amount of work into it, so if you could like the video, I would really appreciate that. So, without further ado, I'm going to get into it. And first of all, here are my honorable mentions for the next season. Alright, Devin Booker, Karl Anthony Towns, Jamal Murray, Donovan Mitchell, Paul George, Trae Young, and Ja Morant. These are the guys who, in no particular order, I considered the most for the number 15 spot. And specifically, if I had to choose one, I probably would have said Devin Booker, because I think he has been around number 20 for a long time, and I think in the bubble, the Phoenix Suns showed that when their team is healthy, they can be really good. So I would not be surprised if next season Devin Booker comes in here and he leads the Suns to at least contending for a playoff spot, even if they don't make it. And I think that is going to really boost his stock in the NBA. And the one whom I think most people would expect to be higher on here is Paul George. And look, Paul George just wasn't that good this year. He just wasn't. I don't think he's going to be a top 15 player next year. I think that OKC in 2019, that was his one last hurrah as a superstar player in the NBA. And he's just not that good anymore. You know, for the Clippers' sake, I hope he proves me wrong, but I just don't believe he's going to be that good. And before anyone asks, no, I don't think, spoiler alert, Zion's not on this list. Because I don't think Zion is going to be that good, okay? Not next season, at least. He would probably be around number 30 on this list. If I decide to extend this list later, that's just, I'm not that high on Zion like everyone else is. So, letting you all know now. So getting into the real list, number 15, Jimmy Butler. And some people are probably going to think this is too low, especially Heat fans. But look, Jimmy Butler's old. He's an older player. He's not improving. He's going to get a little bit worse next year. I expect his role to actually get slightly lower next year as Bam, you know, Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero, Kendrick Nunn, all those young guys get better. I expect Jimmy Butler's role to go down, and he won't have to do as much. And even though he is a fantastic player, I just couldn't justify putting him higher than number 15 on here, simply because of his age. He's not going to get better. He's going to get slightly worse over the next several years. And as amazing as this playoff run was, I still don't think he is quite a top 10 player in the NBA. Okay, there's a lot of other younger players getting better, and Jimmy Butler is not. So because of that, I can only justify putting him at number 15. If you would have him higher, I completely understand. I just don't see it. Sorry about that. Number 14, I have Kyrie Irving. Kyrie has potential to be the second best point guard in the league. I truly believe he is an incredible talent, but like I went over in my Kyrie Irving video a few weeks ago, his chemistry issues cause problems. They make him worse, they make his entire team worse, and even if that doesn't affect his game directly in some cases, I mean, I think it really does, because if your teammates don't get along with you, that's going to affect it. That's going to have an on-the-court effect, okay? Anyone who plays basketball, they know that. If you do not get along with your teammates, you guys are not going to play great together. So I can't put Kyrie higher than number 14 on here. That's just my opinion. I don't think he's better than that. And number 13, barely ahead of him, and I had to think about it for a while, it's Damian Lillard. And again, I think many people are going to think this is too low, and that's fine. FYI, if any of you haven't already gotten mad at this list, you're probably going to be mad by the end of it, because I do not expect many people to completely get along with my choices for this list. But at number 13, I have Dame, and similar to Jimmy Butler, he's amazing. He's an amazing talent, but he's a little older. Now, he's not as old as Jimmy Butler, and I don't expect him to deteriorate or anything, but I feel like his scoring just hasn't... I don't know. I just don't think he's better than the guys I have ahead of him. Amazing scorer, but he's not good defensively. He's not exactly an elite playmaker, even if he is good. He's an amazing player. Damian Lillard is a superstar. Okay? Everyone up to this point, I mean, Jimmy Butler really started it, was like a borderline superstar, and then Kyrie and everyone ahead of him is a superstar, in my opinion. Damian Lillard I just don't think he's as good as the guys I have ahead of him. Or I should say, he's not going to be as good next season as the guys I had ahead of him. Because there's a lot of young players getting better. Number 12, and this one is going to make a lot of people really come for my head, Kevin Durant. Look, Kevin Durant's not the best player in the league anymore, okay? And he's never going to be that good again. He tore his Achilles. That is the worst injury you can suffer as a basketball player unless you pull some like Paul George shit and break your entire leg. Okay? He's not going to be the same guy he was. He's not going to be Dominique Wilkins and come back at 100% because he's already 31 years old. And he wasn't exactly a super athlete to begin with. And I still expect him to be amazing. Okay, number 12. That's pretty amazing. That's an incredible NBA player. Number 12 is about 85% of what Kevin Durant used to be, in my opinion. All right, but he's going to be slower. He's not going to be as good defensively. He's going to be a little rusty from not playing for a year, so that's going to take him a little bit to get into the groove, too. I guarantee you, all right, I'm calling it now, he and Kyrie and the rest of their team, they're going to have chemistry issues. Okay, that Nets team is not going to be great chemistry-wise. They're going to have some problems. So because of all that, I cannot put Kevin Durant higher than number 12 on my list. Number 11, Jason Tatum. I hate to admit it as a Sixers fan and someone who does not like the Celtics, but Jason Tatum is going to be a legit superstar next season if you didn't think he was already this season. He's an amazing player. He's a great two-way player. Jason Tatum, I've seen people compare him to Paul Pierce, which I guess is a compliment if you're a Celtics fan, even though I think anyone else would consider it an insult. I think he can be very similar to Paul George. Not quite as good defensively as Paul George, but I think he also has peak Paul George offensive potential. So Paul George, like we're taking 2019 Paul George, like slightly worse on defense. I think that's Jason Tatum's ceiling, and I think there's a good chance he reaches that ceiling, okay? I think in a few years he could be an MVP caliber player. Right now, or specifically next season, actually, not right now, I expect him to be the 11th best player on the list. And at number 10, anyone in Clutch Sports would disagree with me since they're a bunch of fucking idiots. I think Ben Simmons is going to be the 10th best player in the NBA next season. I'm biased. I'm a Sixers fan. I'll admit it. But I do. I think he's going to be the 10th best player in the NBA next season. I think Doc Rivers is going to finally start unleashing Ben Simmons. 3 years with Brett Brown, and Brett Brown has not made him go outside his comfort zone whatsoever. Okay, we take the minuscule improvements Ben Simmons been making the last 3 years. He gets a little bit better on defense. He gets a little bit better on offense. You know, his turns the ball over slightly less, becomes slightly more efficient, and then he starts taking wide open 3-pointers, which unlocks the entire team's offense. If Ben Simmons can just shoot like 35% from 3 on just wide open threes, okay, maybe not even 35%, because he's a good shooter on wide open threes. And by good shooter, I mean he's made both of them he's taken. Okay? He just needs to take them when he's wide open in the corner. That's all I'm asking, Ben. If you can shoot league average on your 3-pointers when you're wide open, you're a top 10 player in the league. I fully believe that. And Ben Simmons could arguably be higher than this. I'm just scared. I'm just scared that he's not going to lean into it, because I think there's also potential for me to be underestimating Ben Simmons here. I think he could be the best player on the Sixers next season. I think he could be a borderline MVP candidate next season if he really starts taking off. If he makes decent improvements outside of his 3-point range, because it's not like that's the only thing that he can improve. He can get a little bit better in other areas. Okay? But I really do believe, I honestly believe, as a Sixers fan, with a lot of bias, that Ben Simmons can be the 10th best player in the NBA next season. And I'm really hoping that he lives up to my expectations. Number 9, Anthony Davis. People aren't going to like this. People are not going to like Anthony Davis being this low. Cry me a river? I don't really care what people like. I have never been as high on Anthony Davis as everyone else. This playoffs, in fact, this is after me thinking much more highly of him after these playoffs, because these playoffs, in my opinion, improved Anthony Davis a lot for me, because I didn't believe in him at all before them, and the playoffs fixed that. I believe he's a legit superstar. Fantastic second option. I still don't believe he could lead a championship team as the best player, though. I don't. I don't believe he's that good. I think his defense is slightly overrated. I do not think he's like one of the three best defenders in the NBA, even if he is definitely top 10. I don't think he's better than guys like Embiid or Giannis or Kawhi. Um, Maybe even Ben Simmons, honestly, for one-on-one defense. And on offense, again, he's not as good as Embiid. He's not as good as Jokic. He's not as good as LeBron. He's an amazingly elite player, but he's still not higher for me than number 9 because I think some other people are going to be better than him. People like Joel Embiid and Nikola Jokic. All right, these are my next two players. Embiid at number 8, Jokic at number 7. It kills me as a Sixers fan to put Jokic as number 7, but I think the difference is Jokic just does so much for Denver's offense. First of all, Embiid's probably still going to rest some games because that's just how he is, and that hurts his case a tiny bit too. For all intents and purposes, Embiid, Jokic, and Anthony Davis realistically are all right on the same level, but I think Jokic barely edges out the other two. Embiid is just a tiny bit better version of Anthony Davis. He is slightly worse passing, slightly worse shooting, but like significantly better scoring in the post. And he's a little bit better on defense. Jokic is the best passing center we have ever seen. He's a better shooter than the other two. He's insanely clutch. Just an amazing player all around. And the Nuggets are going to be contenders next season, and Jokic is going to be at the head of that, with Jamal Murray getting better still, hopefully keeping up to an extent his playoff production. Michael Porter Jr. getting better. All right, the other young guys on their team, hopefully they re-sign Jeremy Grant. The Nuggets are going to be contenders next season, and Jokic is going to be the one who leads that. So I think he will be the 7th best player in the NBA. Right behind him, Luka Doncic. Some people may have him higher. I really went back and forth for a long time between Luka and my number 5 pick, James Harden. It was really tough for me to choose. At the end of the day, I think Harden's going to be better because if the Rockets get a new coach, Harden's offensive game is finally going to be unlocked, I think. I think he is finally going to play up to his potential. And instead of playing with the overly simplified system that Mike D'Antoni ran, James Harden is going to have a much deeper offensive game than he has been allowed to have for the last several years. And he's going to play fantastic because of it. I think next season could be the best season of James Harden's career, with the exception of possibly 2019 or 2018, but I think it's going to be right on the same level as those. I do not expect him to drop off at all. Luka, utterly incredible player. I believe he is going to be the best player in the league in a few years. That is my pick. I think he's going to be the number 1 player in the league for the 2020s, specifically the late 2020s. But for right now, for one more season, I think James Harden is still going to be a tiny bit better than him. Number 4, I have Steph Curry. I think he's going to be an MVP contender next season. I think he's leading the Warriors back to the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to legitimately contend because the Warriors do not have much depth. I think it depends on what they do with their pick, whether they make some trades involving the pick and Andrew Wiggins, or if they do sign someone. It's all going to depend. It's all going to depend on what they do, because right now they just really lack depth, and as good as they still are with Curry, Clay, and Draymond, and I guess Andrew Wiggins, and possibly the second pick, like they just need a little bit of depth on that team, so they need to do something. So that could hold the Warriors back from contending, but Steph Curry's going to be amazing. He's going to be, once again, the best point guard in the league next season, and he could potentially be as high as number 1 on this list, although I don't honestly believe he will be. Kawhi Leonard, number 3, amazing player, okay? He's going to do the same thing he's done the last 2 seasons. He's going to sit there and he's going to put up like a very efficient, like 27, 28 points a game in the regular season. He's going to be an all-NBA level defender. His passing's been getting better every year, but hopefully the Clippers will sign a legitimate point guard, and so Kawhi does not have to play make. But his playmaking has gotten better in recent years, and that's huge for him. I just think, he's got to rest games. That holds him back, especially if he has any more minor injuries. I don't know if he really is better because his playmaking is still a tiny weakness. He's not quite as good on defense as he was a few years ago, even if he is still elite. And I've got him at number 3, but really the next 3 are all pretty interchangeable. Number 2, LeBron James. Yeah, I had him as the best player in the league this season. Next season, I think he will only be the second best player in the league. I know, big insult, LeBron fans. I know I'm being really insulting right here. He's gonna get a tiny bit worse. He is. He's getting older. This was, um, I believe that this previous season was the last season LeBron James was the best player in the NBA, and I think next season he's gonna lose that title. He gets a step slower. He gets a tiny bit less athletic. He, has to play one less minute a night before he gets tired. It's just little tiny things that I believe coming with age will prevent him from being the best player in the league next year. And he might prove me wrong because look, if you think LeBron's going to be the best player in the league, go right ahead. Okay, it's pretty stupid to bet against LeBron. I feel dumb even saying he won't be the best because he proves me wrong every year. However, I believe that the best player in the NBA next season is going to be Giannis Antetokounmpo. And look, Giannis is 25. All right, he may have underperformed slightly in this year's playoffs, but he's an incredibly hardworking player. He's gotten better every single year of his career. He may be the first player since, I believe, Larry Bird to win 3 straight MVPs, which would be utterly insane to think about, but he's probably my MVP favorite for next season. Okay, I expect the Bucks to have another ridiculous season, and Giannis to be even better than he was this year. Again, 25. That is not a player's prime. All right, 25 going on 26. Most players' primes are like 27, 28 is when they begin. Giannis is freaking 25. He's going to keep getting better. We have not seen peak Giannis yet. He's going to improve his shooting a little bit, I absolutely believe, because, look, he seems to be a player who really, really wants to win. He is going to put in the work. All right? I fully expect Giannis to improve his shooting to reach at least passable levels, I should say. All right, next season, I expect him to improve other things too, like his playmaking, maybe get a tiny bit better on defense. Okay? A little bit more post moves. I expect Giannis to keep improving, and I really fully expect him to be the best player in the NBA next season. And if you think it's going to be LeBron, that's totally fair, but for my money, I am betting on Giannis. So, that is my top 15 players in the NBA for 2021. Sorry this was a bit of a longer video, but there was a lot to go over. If you enjoyed this, please drop a like, subscribe to my channel, check out some of my other videos. I would really appreciate all of that. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you.